Yo guys, what is going on? Finally got an EX7 rulings video for you guys. So talking about a lot of the new decks and strategies coming out in Digimon Liberator. So yeah, as always, let's go ahead and kind of talk about new mechanics, some complicated and maybe somewhat common interactions you might see at locals or regional or something. So let's get into it. So the first mechanic I wanted to talk about is going to be Iceclad. This is new to EX7. The way the mechanics work is pretty straightforward. It tells you right there, other than security Digimon, compare the number of Digivolution cards instead of DP whenever this Digimon battles. So let's say we've got a scenario like this where maybe it's my turn, our opponent's got the Zephagamon on the field, 12,000 DP, and I've got my Hexablow that's also 12,000. If I go ahead and declare an attack into this, instead of normally crashing, because we are both 12k, I have 3 materials, he has 1, so my total number of sources is bigger, sending the Zephaga to the trash. In the case where, of course, both are equal, maybe in the case of, let's say, I just have a level 5 underneath it, then yes, we would trade just like normal, because I have 1 source and he has 1 source. So that's how that effect works. Iceclad is not an effect in the sense it's affecting another Digimon. More so it is affecting the game state, and let's illustrate that by putting out something like this. Okay, so in this case, let's say it's my turn again, and then my opponent's got this Fanglongmon on the field that says all turns this Digimon isn't affected by the opponent's effect of your opponent's Digimon, and I go ahead and attack into it with my Hexablow. Because Hexablow's Iceclad is not affecting the Fanglong itself, it's kind of affecting the state of the game. You will actually be able to beat over the Fanglong and take it out just like you would a normal battle, as if your DP was bigger. This works for basically any unaffected Digimon, quote unquote, your Magnamon X's, your Tyrant Kabuterimons, whatever. And again, just because this isn't really affecting the Digimon itself. A similar thing, even if we're playing into something like a Zephaga, and let's say we want to swing into maybe the Zephaga that has the protection ability. So let's say start of my turn, my Hexablow is going to unsuspend here, triggering the all turns. When Digimon becomes unsuspended, this Digimon isn't affected by your opponent's effects, Digimon effects, and then gets plus 3,000, so it's currently 14k. Again, just like normal, I can go ahead and swing into my opponent's Zephagamon because it's suspended, but then because of Iceclad, we will compare Digivolution cards. I have 1, he has 0, so this will actually be deleted, despite the fact that it was 14,000 and quote-unquote unaffected by Digimon effects. So that's basically the quote-unquote complicated part about Iceclad. So the next keyword or mechanic I want to talk about is going to be Vortex, which is new to the Zephaga line. So on paper, this effect reads pretty simple. At the end of turn, if you know, this Digimon may attack opponent's Digimon, and it can even do so even if it was played this turn. So let's say I go ahead and let's say I'm at 0. I pass turn by a Digivolving Zephaga for 3. I can then use this on evolve, suspend 1 Digimon, then unsuspend, not applicable, and then Vortex. I have this end of turn trigger. I also have the end of turn trigger from this Shoto. So let's say I want to resolve this one first. I'm going to go ahead and resolve this end of turn to Vortex, swing here, and then that triggers the Grangalemon as well as this Shoto to be able to unsuspend if I want to, and then this one to be able to tap to redirect into security again if I want to. Let's say in this case I don't want to use either of those effects. Let's say in that case then I skip on this one, I pass on this one, and then the last effect to resolve is going to be this Shoto, unsuspending here, giving this piercing, and then punching through. And then in this case, so I'm going to pierce, gaining 1 off the egg, gaining 1 off this Galemon, and then let's say, just for the sake of the argument, let's say I was at 1 actually, and then I pass my opponent 2, just so I can keep turn here. So I'm going to go ahead and gain 2 memory, check a security off piercing, and then let's say if my opponent has like something else on the field that's here, and then I go ahead and play this to pass a turn, you know, trigger its on play, whatever, and then I can go ahead and Vortex again because this effect is not once per turn, but again, you just need to reach the end of turn multiple times. So then in this case I reach the end of turn again since I gain back turn, so then I can go ahead and Vortex again. And then this time I could go ahead and use the Grangalemon to unsuspend itself, and then again beating over it, or if I wanted to do this and just get the damage in, I could go ahead and check a security that way, and of course in the process triggering this effect to make itself unaffected and plus 3,000 DP. Okay, so that's the ST Zephagamon. The one that gets a little bit funky is going to be the Ex7 Zephaga. So let's say in this scenario, again, my opponent's got like 2 guys on field, and then I've got 2 memory. And so let's say I go ahead and evolve into the Ex7 Zephagamon, putting my opponent to 2, and then again, this one has a 1 evolve, so we're going to do this first, suspend 1 Digimon. So let's just say I'm going to suspend this guy over here. And then now we reach the end of turn. Again, we've got this effect as well as this effect. Let's go ahead and resolve the Zephaga first to go ahead and Vortex swing into this Digimon here. And then once again, we've got the same effects that resolve either the Grand Gale or the Shoto. So then if I want damage, for example, let's say I want to use this, I want to go ahead and redirect into security. Just so I can get the 2 checks here. But since the attack was actually declared at a Digimon, even though I'm redirecting the attack, I can use Grand Galemon to unsuspend myself. And then simultaneously, we also have this other 1 attacking effect that triggered when we declare the attack. Because this effect isn't once per turn, it's 1 Digivolving, 1 attacking. Suspend 1 Digimon. If this effect suspended your Digimon, return 1 of your opponent's suspended Digimon to the bottom of the deck. So then I can go ahead and suspend the Zephaga that was just unsuspended, and then because it's suspended itself, I can go ahead and bottom deck the Grand Galemon. So it's kind of funny, you're turning this card sideways and vertical a bunch of times. In this instance, it would go ahead and check the 2 security cards and then go ahead and pass the turn over to the opponent. Actually, before the attack, sorry, we do need to still resolve the Shoto because this was pending before the attack. So in that case, we would actually get to suspend this, unsuspend the Zephaga, and then give it piercing as well as blocker. So then I'd be able to finish that sequence basically unsuspended and then check the 2 security cards and then pass turn to my opponent. Maybe if I had some other way to gain back memory, I could go again, but that's basically how the gist of it works. The last thing I wanted to talk about in regards to Vortex was going to be double vortexing, quote unquote. So let's say I have this Zephagamon in my hand and I'm going to go ahead and slam this. Let's say this was 6. I pass my opponent 9, and then again you can use Vortex even if the Digimon did come into play that same turn. So the cool thing about this is what I could do is I could Vortex with this, swing into this guy, and then use the Shoto to like effectively blitz into my opponent's security, which could be a cool game finisher. But I want to mention is, okay, we've got 2 instances of Vortex here. How does this work? So we've got 3 end of turn effects. So again, let's do this Vortex. I'm going to go ahead and swing here. No when attacking, but I could redirect. So let's just say for this instance I do. So I'm going to go ahead and redirect into security. And then we've still got this one as well as this. I'm going to use Shoto, unsuspend the Zephaga, give it piercing, blocker, as well as triggering its all turns. And then the last thing we've got to resolve is the Vortex that happened at the end of turn timing. But because there's an attack going on, you cannot interrupt an attack with another attack. So think of something like Arrest Digimon Superior Mode, way back from like BT to, what was that, 12? So you can't actually double Vortex, same reason you can't double Blitz, and as we'll see, you can't double Overclock either. So in this case, this triggers, but it doesn't activate, it just kind of fizzles. So nothing happens with this Zephaga, and then that attack would go through, security check, 11k on 14, and then we've got blocker and stuff in past turn. So that is Vortex and Zephagamon. Okay, so the next mechanic I'm going to talk about is something kind of similar, is going to be Overclock. This involves ending at the end of turn by deleting one of your tokens or puppet trait Digimon. This Digimon may attack a player without suspending. So instead of being able to attack a Digimon, you get to attack a player, but then you also don't suspend. So because of that, you can do some kind of cool things. So let's say in this instance, I don't know, we've just got this Ex7 Zephaga on the field. So what I could go ahead and do is maybe before I pass turn, like let's say I'm at 1, I'm going to go ahead and swing security. Let's say they don't block for whatever reason. Okay, I live, and then what I could do is go ahead and Digivolve the Cendrill for 4, and then we get to summon a token off of the Cendrillmon's effect. And then now, since we've reached the end of turn kind of phase, we get to go ahead and pop a token to then swing at security without suspending. This triggers the on deletion of the token as well as anyone attacking from Cendrill at the same time. However you want to resolve that. So let's say we can give like minus 3,000 if they've got something on board. So we want to kill this, minus 3,000 to that. And then we've also got the minus 6,000 from the Cendrillmon itself. So minus 6,000 to, I don't know, this thing. And then we've got minus 2, 3 to 6 to your opponent's security. Also draw one, but since we don't have another Digimon, can't use that one. And then yeah, this would go through. And then I guess in this case, if they didn't choose to block or whatever, we would just have game. So the other thing I want to mention is going to be the protection effect. So this says when this Digimon would leave the battle area other than by one of your effects by deleting one of your token or your puppets, prevent it from leaving, basically. So the stipulation to this is it can't be like by your own overclock. For example, you can't like attempt to pop another Cendrillmon with your overclock and then save it with the Chaperonemon inherited. So that doesn't work. The other thing I do want to mention is that you can't double overclock just like you can't double vortex. So let's say in the case of for argument's sake, we had like another thing with overclock on the field, so like another Cendrillmon on field. Just like before, we reached the end of turn, this triggers and this triggers, so I can use one or the other. Let's say I want to use this one, pop this token, minus 3,000 something and swing. And then once we get back to this one, we can't actually interrupt the effect. So we can't use overclock in this scenario, just like you can't double vortex. The other thing I do want to say is that overclock is an optional effect. I think they errated this, but basically every errata, or 99% of the erratas that are from Digimon, are just due to translation errors. So this is basically saying like you can do either the whole thing or none of it. So let's say I reach the end of turn, I don't want to swing because maybe, I don't know, this thing is like a billion DP and he can block me and I lose the game or something. So I don't want to swing, I'm just not going to delete anything. If I delete something, I have to swing. That kind of thing. So that's the whole thing with overclock, but pretty cool mechanic, similar to Vortex in a lot of ways. But yeah, that is going to be Cendrillmon. Okay, now this time for probably the most complicated set of interactions that have come out in a while, I think. So let's talk about Lilithmon X and specifically the 7th Fascination. Okay, this deck is really cool, but let's just talk about kind of some of the important effects. And I'm also going to be bringing in the EX6 Lilithmon, since this will probably come up a lot more if you're playing the deck. But yeah, so first of all, let's talk about the EX6 Lilithmon's effect that says, until the end of your opponent's turn, one of their Digimon gains end of your turn, delete this Digimon. So let's say, just for argument's sake, I'm going to go ahead and slam this, putting my opponent at 10. I'm going to trigger this effect, giving it to this Zephagamon, okay? And then my opponent is going to go ahead and start their turn, all their guys unsuspend. In this case, this trigger just gets immunity, plus 3,000 DP. And then let's just say they, like, pass their turn, okay? So they're going to pass their turn, and then now they have the end of turn triggers from Shoto, Vortex from here, as well as, let's say I gave it to this. I'm going to put a dice on this to indicate that I gave it the effect from Lilithmon, and then they also have that end of turn. They can resolve it in whatever order they want, so let's say I also have just suspended body so they can Vortex. So let's say they're going to go ahead and Vortex first. They're going to go ahead and swing at the Shumon, triggering anyone attacking so they get to unsuspend. Maybe redirect into security if they want. And then use this effect, I guess, give the blocker to the Mother Reaper here. And then, yeah, so then the attack is finished because then this Vortex can't trigger since we already triggered once. But then now, again, you have an end of turn effect that is processing, or that's like, pending. You need to trigger that before the attack fully resolves. So then in this case, they have to resolve this effect of now it is the Zephagamon, so they're going to have to delete itself basically. So then this just dies and the attack does not go through. Okay, that's kind of the cool or bad thing depending on which side you're on, but that's kind of the thing with this Lilithmon. Okay, now what happens if we resolve something like 7th Fascination? So let's say, for instance, same exact scenario. Let's say it's my opponent. I pass my opponent after digivolving. Like let's say I'm at 0. I digivolve Lilith X over Lilith for 1, and then I've got a 7th Fascination in the trash. And this card has a trash effect where it says when any of your Digimon digivolve into Lilithmon X antibody, by returning this card to the bottom of the deck, activate its main effect, which is until the end of your opponent's turn, give all of their Digimon, end of your turn, delete one of your Digimon. So I'm going to go ahead and resolve this bottom deck, and I'll just leave it on the field for now, just to, we know we're resolving this. And then let's say past my opponent, they go ahead and start their turn, unsuspend, I guess gain a memory off this. Okay, so then we reach the end of turn, so then we're going to have a trigger from the Shoto here, a Vortex trigger here, a Vortex trigger here, as well as each of their Digimon will gain an instance of the end of your turn from 7th Fascination. The only one that won't in this case is Mother Reaper, because it is immune to Digimon effect, or sorry, just opponent's effects. So anything that is immune to effects won't gain that trigger. So something like a Magnamon X, for example. This Zephagamon is only immune to Digimon, so we're not going to worry about that. But yeah, so in this case, we're going to have 2 instances. So again, let's indicate this with the dice here. So we're going to put 1 dice on each of these. So then we have basically a bunch of end of turn triggers. We're going to resolve. Our opponent Zephagamon is going to resolve. Let's say they're going to go ahead and Vortex first. So let's say they go ahead and Vortex swing here, resolving. I don't know. Again, let's say they redirect. They use the Grand Gale to unsuspend. And then we've got the end of turn trigger from this Vortex. Won't happen because we're already in the middle of attack. This one, again, let's say we give the blocker to Mother or something. And then now that those are done, we've got the end of turn delete one of your Digimon. There's kind of 2 ways this can go down. So, of course, what I want to talk about is just like normal, just like this Lilithmon, it is now the effect of the Zephagamon and the ST Zephagamon itself. So you can't actually protect against it via certain forms of protection. And what I mean is Mother Reaper, for example, says that this Digimon isn't affected by your opponent's effects, but once this has stuck onto your opponent's Digimon, once this has stuck onto Zephaga, it is now the Zephaga's effect. So then if I use Zephaga and this says delete one of your Digimon, not just itself. So let's say I use this Zephaga's end of your turn delete one Digimon to delete my Mother Reaper. It is going to actually delete the Mother Reaper because it is only unaffected by the Lilith player's effects, but at this time, that is the Zephagamon's effect. So a little bit weird on how these things get, but it kind of makes sense, right? Because as soon as this is on the Zephaga, it is the Zephaga's effect. So then that would happen. That dies, boom, we've resolved that trigger, and then this one, let's say we just kill ourselves, and then boom, that resolves, and then we're good. Attack goes through, and in this case, I guess I would just die because I'm in 0 security. But yeah, so that's kind of how that card works. The other cool thing about this card is that it gets around certain forms of protections, because once it gives the effect to your opponent's Digimon, as long as that Digimon can take the effect, aka it's not immune, it is now treated as that Digimon's effect. So let's say in this case I could be playing against something like Dominimon, where it says when one of your Digimon with the Angel, Archangel, 3 Great Angels, including itself, would leave the battle area, other than one of your effects, other than Domini player's effects, trash top card security, prevent it from leaving. So let's say they have a security, and then again, same thing with the Zephaga player. Let's say we reach the end of turn, and then now they have to resolve this trigger. Let's say this is the only thing on the field. You can't actually burn a security to protect the Dominimon, because at this point, it is the Dominimon's effect, so it's just killing itself. Same thing that works the same way with something like Return the Primogender, because it says when one of your opponents, blah blah blah, when one of your Digimon with a free trait would be deleted other than by one of your effects. So other than the Imperial player's effects, but at this point their Paildramon or their Dragon Mode or whatever has that effect, so it's killing itself. The only, well, not the only, but one instance where I can think of that this doesn't kill their stack is something like Greymon, because Greymon X says when this Digimon has Greymon or Omnimon in its name, and an effect would delete it or return to the hand or deck. So this one, even if it is its own effect, take example like something like Shine Greymon Ruin Mode, right? You can swing with Ruin Mode, trigger the end of attack to delete itself, save with Greymon X. So in this case, I could, under 7th Fascination, I could just detach 2 materials and save the Metal Greymon. But that's only because it specifies like it can be any effect. It can even be your own, whereas Domini and like something like Primogender do not specify that. So yeah, that's Lilithmon. It's probably the bulk of this video. Well, let's get into Dragon Links. The real only thing I want to talk about with this deck is going to be the Metallic Dramon and the Volcanic Dramon. The first thing is going to be Volcanic Dramon's when Digivolving, where it says your opponent can't play or move Digimon with 6,000 lower DP until the end of their turn. The play is pretty self-explanatory. What it means by move is it means, let me make this big, this looks weird. What it means by move is moving out of the breeding areas. Let's say we have something that would be bigger than 6,000. So let's say with this, this is 6,000 DP, but then with this Terramon, it would be 8,000 DP. You might be wondering, okay, well, can this move? Because as soon as it hits the battle area, it would be 8,000. And the answer to that is no, because this specifically says 6,000 or lower can't move. So it's currently Still only 6,000 because effects aren't active in the breeding, so Volcanic Dramon looks at the current state in the breeding, and then if it beats 6,000, it's like, yes, you can move out. If it doesn't, it says no, you cannot. So in this case, you would have to just like evolve into a level 5 to be able to actually move this out. The other thing I want to mention was going to be the alterns effect of the Volcanic Dramons, where it says when this Digimon would leave the battle area other than by your effects, play one of the, this one plays Volcanic, this one plays Metallic. The thing that's kind of maybe seems cool is, okay, well, what if I want to use Dorbigmon, and this says other than by one of my effects, but Digicrossing is a rule, so surely I can, I can like Digicross this one and then float into the other one. But the problem is that these cards aren't leaving the battle area. So if, for example, let's say I wanted to try to resolve this and I've got Metallic in hand and I want to Digicross with just the Volcanic, this doesn't leave the battle area. This looks so goofy, but this doesn't leave the battle area, so you can definitely still Digicross with them, boom, put that underneath, but you won't be able to float into the Metallic here because it's going underneath the card. So it's not really leaving the battle area. So that's really the only thing I want to talk about with that. And then the last kind of thing I want to mention was going to be Beelstarmon X, specifically the one Digivolve and one attacking, where it says by trashing 2 cards with the under this Digimon that have 3 Musketeers in its source, basically. Delete one of your opponent's Digimon on highest level and trash their top security. So what happens if, let's say, I've only got like one thing underneath it? Let's say somehow, I don't know, we're playing against Hexablah or something. This is my stack. So, and they've got 1 security left. Can I go ahead and use this? The answer is no. Like, clearly you can't actually trash their security because you have to trash 2, right? So that part might be self-explanatory, but what if I just want the memory and I just want to like trigger that but fizzle on the effect? And the answer is still no. Basically because the activation condition for this effect, the condition to actually resolve it or even like attempt to do the effect is going to be by trashing 2 cards with the 3 Musketeers trait from this Digimon's Digivolution cards, and you only have 1. So this instance is one of the rare instances in Digimon, I almost said Yu-Gi-Oh, where you can't do as much as possible, quote unquote, but basically any effect that is worded like this that says by doing X or Y, you have to actually do that thing, or you actually have to attempt to do that thing to even begin to resolve the effect. We're not even talking about resolving the effect because that's not the part that we care about. But so yeah, in the case where maybe you just wanted to get the extra memory or something, you couldn't do it with Beelstarmon X. But yeah, guys, that is going to be the Digimon Liberator kind of rulings video. If you have any other questions on any of the archetypes or decks I talked about in the video, let me know. I'm sure I missed something, but anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.